to The Balancing Act. Now here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
Hello, Balancing Act Podcast, and welcome back to another Best of Season 1 episode. I am one of your hosts, Joe Vitale, and we are getting ready to, unfortunately, shedding a tear, towards the very quick August and end of summer, and more excitingly, the beginning of Season 2 for the Balancing Act Podcast. So, dropping the first week of September will be our Season 2 slate. We have some very exciting things coming up. We really hope you're going to listen to that first episode. So we have some exciting announcements for you on that first one. But we really, wanted to give you guys some content. We want to definitely highlight some of the important things that we've talked about throughout Season 1. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into our Season 1 best of clips. This is going to be host picks. These are some of the things that myself and Jamie discussed over Season 1 that we thought were poignant, important, and really spoke to the purpose of our podcast. We also have some guest voices sprinkled in there a little bit. You'll hear from some of our guests, and we really hope that you'll enjoy this little best of review. Remember, these are perfect episodes if you're sharing our podcast with colleagues or fellow educators. These are great episodes to get people started with our podcast and learning about what our story and our show is all about. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it, and here are the best of Season 1 host picks.
The child is doing poorly, but the parents already have access to the grades online.
Yeah. So what are we doing?
Yeah, Why are we doing?
I don't think he listens to the podcast, but I'm going to say it in someone's very. What are we doing? That's a famous line from somebody that we work with.
What are we doing?
Do we
He's
feel?
gonna
Do we feel? He is. Do we feel empowered? Like, do you feel empowered in your job to make decisions that are going to lead to the best outcomes for your students?
Do I feel empowered?
Yeah.
No. Do
I
you?
know. No, I don't. And that's what leads me to and I'm sorry, I was kind of foreshadowing what I was going to talk about. And there was an article that was sent to me, and one of the quotes was, if your goal was to create, I lost it. If your goal was to create a miserable work environment where employees are stressed, burned out, disrespected, or given no say in their job, just look at the U.S. schools for inspiration. They are our best practice of miserable workplaces. And if you were looking for one major fix to education in America, you do everything in your power to ensure that teachers are empowered. And it's not that our boss doesn't allow us to be empowered to make decisions. It's the system has beaten everyone down at this point, where I think everyone has the shortest fuse imaginable. You said, we're trying to deal with young people who don't necessarily have consequences.
Yeah.
And some, I hear stories from teacher friends of mine, and for people who listen to the podcast, that their kid gets sent down to the office for cursing at somebody or cursing at the teacher, and they come back and they have a lollipop. Like, what are we doing? But I know, I'm not trying to sound like back in my day. I'm not trying to be that guy, but at the same time, we've had such a shift in how we deal with student behavior that also leads to a lack of consequences, not just at home, but at the school level as well. So,
And there are consequences in the real world. And I often say that to the kids. If I'm in ShopRite and I'm annoyed with the woman in front of me because she's taking a long time and I shove her to the ground, she has every right, as do any of the workers there, to call the police and have me arrested. The things that we're asking you not to do, verbally assault, physically abuse, all of the things that we're asking you not to do in the school environment are the same expectations and laws that we have as a society. So, this sort of runaround of and then they couldn't, and then, oh no, and you don't get that many chances as a real, actual person walking, day to day as an adult. So we're really giving them this false sense of what the, actual environment is like out in the world, because you can't just punch somebody in the face and someone's going to say, "Oh, you must have been having a bad day."
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
No. And
We
why are there, I mean, and are there any parenting classes? Like, what are we doing? Like, right, we always want to have like response to intervention for the kids, but what are we doing right for the parents?
Yeah, I mean, I know. Pardon the pause, because it's just me
Long
thinking.
pause. Right.
I know. I'm literally sitting here going, nothing. Like we're
Yeah.
not doing anything. And
And
again,
there's different programs in different schools that get the parents in, invite the parents in, have the parents, learning and doing things. And and some schools are really, really good at involving the parents. And
yep,
I am completely and totally enamored by that entire piece of community as far as how you involve parents in schools. I mean, which is why I ran a parent child teacher book club for 20 plus years. And the interactions that I had with the parents were the most reaffirming, helpful conversations, moments, things that I learned from people that helped me to keep going as a teacher. I think we all need those moments of things that really like sort of boost us.
yeah,
But, that needs to be sort of this more of a standard practice, right? I mean, I've had parents who've come in and it was the first book they ever read in English
yeah.
because they had never read a book in English before. You know, so my story is complicated and long, and so I'll give the overview. But just like similar to Joe, my mom has been ill. My mom has been ill, or like Joe's dad. My mom had cancer once, and then she had cancer twice, and then I would say somewhere in the middle of the pandemic. So we're coming up on about almost 4 years. She's started to have some difficulty, shoulder pain, leg pain, knee pain, hip pain. How much of that pain is because you are in your 70s? How much of that pain is that you've been treated for cancer twice? And so she was, a little bit here and there, different things, having trouble keeping up and stuff like that. And then it became somewhat more neurological. Was it her hearing? Was it that she couldn't hear? Was it that she didn't know or understand? So there were some questions that we were having, and it was a difficult time for everybody. We weren't seeing people regularly, so she was spending more time by herself, not going out as much. So it was like, was it that? We don't know. I don't know. And within if I can shorten the time period a little bit, in June of 22, on the very last day of school, just as we were starting to celebrate summer and glorious vacation, we got a call that she fell and broke her hip. And that led to her having surgery and then coming home and doing rehab and getting better. And then within, I would say, between July 15th and August 15th, what was an improvement was a complete and total downfall. And she was then hospitalized and has not walked since. And so she has been completely bedridden since August of 22. So now we are in October of 23. And the doctors have told us that she has, this form of dementia that is affecting her body. So her brain cannot communicate with her body to walk, move, hold a cup, brush her teeth, do anything at all for herself in any way. And so as a family, right, my sister, I have one sister, she is wonderful. My dad is wonderful. And so the three of us have been in the throes and thick of this. We have gotten extremely educated in a way that we wish we were not, with healthcare and how to get around, just just dealing with insurance companies and therapists. And we took her home last year. They told us we had 6 months. So my dad was very, very serious about taking her home. He would not allow her to go to any kind of assisted living or any kind of facility at all. And so then we moved them in with my sister and her husband and their 4 children. And that was, talk about trying to parent your parent. That was a very, very big deal. He really didn't want to do that. And so they lived with my sister and her family for almost the entire school year, from October all the way until the end of May. And then my dad decided he wanted to go back to their house and go home. So now he has been back home with her, and they have been, in their sort of routine and pattern now since the end of May. But it's a constant back and forth, up and down, left and right. So talk about balancing things. Last year, the entire year, I left every Friday straight from work and gave my dad a night off, would sleep with my mom and take care of her. I would get home on Saturday night and somewhere between 6, 7 o'clock, and just, it was sort of like, I would joke, like, I'm a baby, because within an hour, I would cry, eat, have a drink, and go to bed. So it was just like boom, boom, boom. And then Sunday I raced to do everything that I hadn't been able to do Friday or Saturday. But again, it was, I was doing, what I felt was necessary to help my father and my mother and my sister and my family. And, my sister and my dad were really in it together for a long, long time. So, we never really know. I mean, a lot, I was like, oh, I could never do that, or, oh, I could never do that. And so you just sort of do things that you, feel are the right thing to do. But it's not without its own exhaustion in lots of different ways. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I never once, unless you told somebody about this situation, what you were going through, could you see that it was like affecting you at your job? There are certain people that you told and they'd be like, I didn't know that was going on. I couldn't, like, your demeanor didn't change. The type of person that you are didn't change. You're one of the most genuine, strongest people I know. And that never changed. There's really only one time where a student made a passing comment that I know that it affected you, and it wasn't in a bad way towards you. It was just a comment that they made about something. And it just struck you, not necessarily, it just struck you in a sensitive way, where I know that emotionally affected you, but I've also took a lot of what I was able to, what I dealt with my dad, and hearing all the things that we talked about with your mom. I took a lot of that, like, with me. And what I mean by that is I was able to, like, do the things I needed to do for my dad and kind of compartmentalize the other things that I needed to do. Like, there were other essential things for my family that needed to be done, but they didn't need to be done right away. And what was more important is that you're there and that you're in the moment and that you're present and you're dealing with, like you said, doctors and nurses and everything else that's going on. And you by far have gone through more medically, getting educated through this whole process than I hope I never have to, to know what you know. You also want Jamie Wanko to be like your advocate. Like, that's what I would want. I'm going to hire you. If anything ever happens to me, I'm going to be like, this is my person to be my advocate and ask all the doctors the questions.
What's funny, I'm like laughing a little bit because I'm a big fan of Bravo TV and Andy Cohen. Shout out Andy Cohen. And there was one of the they're people, but characters or whatever. And she had Lyme's disease, and she would, like, it's like money for money for money, right? And she had an advocate. And the woman would come on the screen, and her name was Daisy. And all she did was, like, So it is a job, and my one girlfriend and I would always say, like, we would call each other like Daisy, like, can you just call the doctor and tell them that I don't feel, when you don't feel good and you're like, oh, I just wish that someone would do it for me,
Mhm.
and so we would call each other Daisy. So it's like, yeah, it is a thing, it is a job, and it is something that my dad, my sister, and I have said often. Like the last time that we had to go to the hospital with my mom in June, I just had this moment of, the nurses and doctors and, the emergency room. And it was just, just like teachers, it's like understaffed, overworked. And, so we really always try to lead with, like, as much calm as we can. However, we have some, experiences that have hurt us a little bit, and we don't have chill. I'll say none of us have chill, and I kind of was looking around, and they were having a difficult time doing a couple of things, and we all know how to do it. None of us have medical backgrounds. We're all teachers, and I looked at these people and I thought to myself, "Oh, I wouldn't want to be you right now." With the
Mhm.
three of us, like, we are fierce and we are unrelenting, and it's just, and so I feel proud of that. I try to lean into those moments of what I'm really proud of, and I'm so proud to be my parents' child, and I'm so proud to be my sister's sister. I'm just so proud to have my nuclear family, and have them all of the time to lean on, and to work with, and to be together with, because I think that makes all the difference, really.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Definitely.
I just want to say something I say to my students all the time, just that about your inquisitive nature as a child, and just in general. I always say to them, you can't be interesting if you're not interested. And, and I think it's really one of those things to encourage. And I have a student now, I had her last year, I have her again this year, lucky enough for me. And she, I started asking, how do you know that? Right. She had so much knowledge of so many different things. And how do you know that? And
I guess.
she said, self-taught.
Oh, self-taught. I was going to say TikTok.
Oh.
99% of the time, my students know something. I'm like, where did you learn that? They're like, TikTok.
No,
Yeah.
she said self-taught. And I thought that, so I've actually taken to having my own children answer in that way. I'm like, well, how do you know that? I'm self-taught. And I think it's such an interesting approach. But yes, TikTok, that's true. Yeah. That comes up a lot too.
Again, I appreciate my students who ask questions other than going to the bathroom or can they go to their locker, things like that. And it's like, I don't think we encourage that enough with students, because they're afraid either they're going to be embarrassed or the question is somehow not relevant. And I like you said, it's just like that shows interest, and also it shows that they want to learn and grow. If kids don't have questions, if kids don't have big dreams or ask questions, those are my big concerns, because it means they're not passionate about anything or want to know about anything. And you have to be passionate about something. And it's like, that's our goal as educators, is to find out what that is and try to nurture that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we know that there is a rather big project that you have been working on, and we would love for you to talk about that and let us know when some of that stuff is going to be dropping,
Okay.
especially for our listeners that are out there. I really love the message that you're putting together, and I'd love for you to tell us about what you're working on.
So I've been lucky enough to meet, like, a lot of people in the entertainment world, being in the entertainment world, and I have a lot of friends still in that world. And anytime I meet anyone of prominence, whether it's an athlete, an actor or actress, or just an artist, and they find out I'm a teacher, they always tell me about how they are who they are because of their teachers. And they always tell me about a teacher. So a few years ago, I did a series called Best Teacher Ever with Soul Pancake, which was a digital streaming service. The Kid President.
Yeah.
And called Best Teacher Ever, and it's where I had celebrities go back and surprise their former teachers. And then we turned that into a social media campaign. Obviously, the pandemic kind of put a hold on that. So I'm currently working on two big projects, my two passion projects. We always like people to experience what it's like to be a teacher. So I'm doing a series called Celebrity Substitutes, where I have celebrities sub in a school for a day and then share about their experience. And I did one in Miami with James Maslow from Big Time Rush, who was incredible. Like, he would make an amazing teacher. And I just did one last week or 2 weeks ago with Karen Parsons, who played Hillary on The Fresh Prince, and we did a panel together at the NJEA convention as well. And she did an amazing job. And the whole goal is just to use people who obviously have a following to kind of share their experience on why we need to, first of all, why it's insanely difficult to be a teacher, and second, to why we need to support public schools and public school teachers. So that's one initiative I'm working on. The other one, which is my bigger passion project, is the My Favorite Teacher campaign, where I'm interviewing celebrities and athletes and artists about their favorite teacher. And everyone I interviewed has one. And it warms my heart because like Matthew McConaughey, I was telling Joe, just shared his video. And it's like when he starts talking, his favorite teacher is his mom, because it's like she inspired him the importance of education. But it's like when you hear people talk about their favorite teachers, it takes them back to that moment. And it also helps them reflect on how significant that person was in their lives. And it's like all these stories there's a common thread line on how teachers do so much more than just teach. But at the same time, the stories in itself are so inspiring on how, like Emily Hampshire from Schitt's Creek, she was an outcast at school, was dyslexic, was not a good student. Her vice principal, encouraged her to get in the theater, took her to plays, told her how funny she was. And she said that was the first time someone ever said something positive about what I was doing. And she said, after that moment, I'm like, I'm going to be an actor because this person says I can. And it's like, I've heard so many, like I was watching the Sylvester Stallone documentary where he was doing
I saw that myself.
off-Broadway plays. And a professor came up to him and said, this is what you should be doing. And he said, after that moment, that changed everything. And it's so interesting on how moments and phrases with educators reshape everyone's life. And so I'm going to be telling those stories. I'm going to kind of launch a little teaser next week. And then each week I'm going to share a story with the celebrity and their favorite teacher to kind of not only help public opinion, but just to remind everyone and forget everyone to reflect that even people who are attacking teachers, I'm sure if they really did some self-reflection, would realize they had amazing teachers and they're just buying into what's being thrown in front of them on certain networks and certain media outlets. And most of us can often name not only a teacher, but teachers who forever positively impacted our lives.
Yeah.
So how about you, Nick? Who is your favorite teacher?
I mean, I had so many, and it's like and it's one of my goals. I want to do a documentary where I go back and interview all my former teachers and just to thank them. I mean, I've already done my kindergarten teacher after 30 years. I surprised her because I always talk about her on like different news outlets, and she opens the door, she starts crying, I start crying. It was so, I'm thinking this woman waited 30 years to find out she did a good job. So elementary school teachers, that's how they should be evaluated. Track the kid down like 20 years later. And if they're successful and they're happy like that, because it's so tough to like basically evaluate what we do. Yeah. Because there are days when me teaching history is irrelevant. I have a kid who lost a parent. It's like, you think I care if he learns history or they learn history? It's more or less supporting them. So it's very tough to evaluate what we do because we do so many different things. And
yeah, no, I think that's important for kids to be able to spend time with their families and take that time off and not have assignments or work or things like that, especially at the middle school level, because we're still talking about kids that need, a time to decompress and remove things themselves. And we set a very interesting expectation for students that, we have as adults about working outside of the school day and stuff like that. Like we do expect students to do homework and assignments and stuff like that.
I hate homework.
I do know that. I do.
In case the listeners haven't caught on just yet,
yeah.
I hate homework. I hate homework as a teacher. I hate homework as a parent. I hate homework. I will not fight the homework. And obviously my kids do their homework and I don't assign much homework, but I will say there should be a real long, hard look at the actual assignments that are being given. And to be honest with you, if it was reading every day and like a little bit of math every day, fine. But it's just not. it's so much busy work, project, busy work, project,
Yeah.
busy work.
And I know we're organically having a conversation that we were going to shift into talking a little bit about parenting.
Well, isn't that parenting? I'm saying
Well,
as a
no,
mom,
it is.
I
It is.
hate it.
Well, I really would be interesting. I'd be interested to hear about your philosophy. I mean, we just heard about how you feel about it as a parent, but I'd love for you to expand on how you feel about it as an educator. Besides, I know you hate it, but
if I have so I've taught multiple subjects. If I have students that are trying to show me that they are reading, they're interested, they're writing, they're working on their craft. Is it really expanding their knowledge? I don't know if most assignments that are given are really, and especially homework assignments when there's no one to help them. So if you're giving a kid a project and they have to do it at home and there's no one to help them, now you're sending them off into a scary environment where they can't do it on their own. They are also, often involved in many other things that are shaping them in far more profound ways than answer these 25 questions and bring it back tomorrow. I just don't see the need for the amount of homework. I even like our district policy is supposed to be 10 minutes per grade level.
Oh, that's no.
It's supposed to be 10 minutes per grade level. So if you look at an average sixth grader, should they be doing more than 60 minutes of homework a day? No. But if you ask me, do I think a child should be reading 60 minutes every single day? 100% yes.
Yeah. And I think that's, sorry, I had to adjust my headphones. I think that's an important distinction to make.
Yeah.
There are things that students can do to expand their knowledge base, like you said, reading, participation in religious studies, participation in after school activities like sports or travel sports, like that teaches kids problem solving and team building and time management. Like those are all important skills. We're going to be having a guest come on soon that talks more about depth than breadth in regards to the assignments that they give. That'll be a future episode, but that is something that we talked about, and definitely something that I struggle with, because you and I, we've talked about it, and a lot of the, and again, I don't assign lately. I have not been assigning regular homework. I was doing like one assignment at the beginning of the week, and it would be due by the end of the week. And I had talked to them about time management and using planners, and I did executive function lessons with my students. But now, because we're in the throes of doing a couple different activities, we're working on a project right now. And just, yesterday or earlier the week, I gave an assignment and I said, okay, we're going to start this in class. They had about 15 minutes to work on it. I said, okay, if you're not done, finish it up tonight for homework. Let's sit down. We're going to conference and talk about your projects, and we'll have like little team meetings and go over everything, and I'll sit with everybody. I had 4 out of 20 kids in one class do it and 5 out of 25 in another. And I understand the fact that these kids have obligations outside of school, but there's also a decline in work ethic that I've seen for situations like that. That's happened to me multiple times. And the work that we're doing is required and necessary. Like, the project that I'm referring to, like, I feel it's good. It meets students where they are. But a lot of them are hearing the requirements, and they're just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I've never experienced that before in my career, especially with the age group that we're teaching.
Yeah, and I'm just not doing that. I don't know. I don't get a lot of I'm just not doing that.
Oh, not outwardly verbal, but just through behavior.
I hear more of like, but I don't know what you mean.
Okay.
Also, we are fostering a generation that doesn't want to fail. And so what I say to them over and over and over, it's better to be wrong than to not even try.
Yeah.
Answer the question and be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to not even try. But what I do notice is like the level of scaffolding has become, much more increased in their, what do you mean? Can I see an example? What are you saying? I don't get, so I feel like, and some of them are just not going to say, I don't understand what you mean, because they don't want to look, less than, compared to their peers. So some of them who are just pretending like they know and they don't know at all. But there is like that, disconnect between things that I think we think they know and they just don't know.
Okay, well, there you have it. We have went through all of our best of episodes from season 1. The next time you hear from us at the Balancing Act podcast, it'll be brand new episodes, and the season 2 slate will be well on its way. We really appreciate all of our listeners. I appreciate you, listener, and we really want to encourage you to continue along the journey. We have some great guests lined up for the start of season 2. As well as some important messages that we're going to be talking about. So look for the first episode of season 2 to drop at the beginning of September, first full week in September. Look for that Tuesday. We'll be dropping our first episode of season 2. So if you are already in the throes of starting a school year, or you are about to head back into the classroom, we wish you the best. We hope that the Balancing Act podcast will be a part of your continuing journey in education, and we greatly hope that you'll share our message with colleagues, friends, or family members that you think could benefit from the Balancing Act podcast. So, as always, we appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you at the beginning of season 2, dropping the first week in September.
Listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Have a topic we should discuss? Drop us a line at thebalancingactpod@gmail.com.